we talked about what the Niners should have learned from the Trey Lance experience. Before they can move forward, they also need to learn something from the previous one. What should the Niners have learned from the Jimmy Garoppolo experience so that they don't repeat it?
I think that the it's hard. It's hard to look at the Jimmy Garoppolo experience and completely just say it was bad, right? Because for all intents and purposes, if the Jimmy Garoppolo experience was as bad as it was, then Jimmy would have tanked on Trey as soon as he got in the building. I got to go high on Jimmy first. Jimmy was a great pro to Trey. He was a great pro to the locker room. He could have really kicked up dust, which we've seen. Most quarterbacks are not just going to stand idly by and let their backup get drafted in front of them. So one of the things is that one of the things they can learn from the Jimmy experience is making sure that you get a true man in the position, because Jimmy did. He was a good quarterback for this team. Another thing that they can learn from the position is learning how to protect your quarterbacks more. A part of the offense has to be not schemed up so tilted towards advancing the ball that we forget how to protect. And that's something that I learned at a very early age in football, is that it's not sound if you can't block it. I don't care what you can't block it, then it can't be ran.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Right. And
it only works on a blackboard or whiteboard.
Exactly.
You want to call it.
Right.
Yeah.
And you could draw it up, but conceptually it may work. But on the field, if a guy starts getting enough keys to know that he's not getting touched on things, minutia can throw everything off. And we didn't protect Jimmy. We didn't protect Jimmy a lot. I feel like there was a lot of times where the offense that we built for Jimmy was more predicated on kind of pigeonholing where he could throw the ball, but we never really put Jimmy on the move a lot. We didn't really give Jimmy anything where, it's just, for me, I want you to answer this question for me, Grant. How can we talk about Jimmy overthrowing and not being able to hit deep passes down the field, but then at the same time, we can talk about Jimmy's arm strength, about where the ball can go on the field? I feel like you can pick your spots. Brock Purdy's arm, in my eyes, was a tick weaker than Jimmy Garoppolo's arm, to be honest with you. And a lot of don't look at me like that. A lot of the throws and a lot of the offense that I saw that was being opened up for Brock is some of the things and stuff that I could have seen being dialed up for Jimmy. It's hard right now. My stomach is on fire because it's hard for me to just go so positive on everything that Jimmy gave us and the things that we've learned from him being here. But I just think that one of the biggest things that was huge is that we paid Jimmy early. One of the reasons why we were even in this position where we wanted to move him, or he was able to be stomached for us to build the team that we did around him, is that when he did show us the viability, those 6 games that he played in a row, we paid him. And he could have been a huge problem for us fiscally down the road had we not done that.
Okay, so you're focused on how the Niners sort of didn't put Jimmy in his best situation and could have done better by Jimmy. That's an interesting way to look at it. They probably should have learned from it. I'm looking at it from the perspective that it didn't work out. He didn't win the Super Bowl. He's gone. And they felt he wasn't right for them. So how do you not make this mistake again? What they should have learned is you need a guy who can move. Jimmy can't move. So you need a guy who can move. That's one thing they learned. You need a guy who can push the ball down the field effectively. I don't care what his arm strength is. He's not a good downfield thrower. That's 2 things. What you said, don't spend big money on a freaking mediocre quarterback. I think they've got the picture on that. And then the last one is they should have learned to not fall for a quarterback so fast. You brought that up. And I don't know if they learned that one, because I feel like at least someone in the organization is doing it again with Brock. And, I know he can move better than Jimmy, and he might be able to push the ball down the field a little bit more accurately than Jimmy. But I feel like he's essentially a cheaper Jimmy, and they're moving a little too fast with this. They're acting like he's proven something when it's just been 8 games. And I'm a little afraid that they haven't learned from the Jimmy Garoppolo experience and that they're doomed to repeat it. And that when they finally go all in with Brock Purdy and realize that, you know what, like Jimmy, he's not quite gifted enough. In 2 years, they're going to trade up in round 1 again for another quarterback. And then just repeat that pattern. That's what I think.
All right. Well, I'm subject to change my opinion with new information. I'm not changing my full opinion, but from hearing what you have to say, one thing that I will say about, I'll say that I said that I felt like Jimmy had a stronger arm than Brock. But if I am the 49ers, the difference between hopping on Jimmy right away and hopping on Brock right away is that Brock is a rookie. And Jimmy was already in the league for multiple years and sat behind a Tom Brady and showed the promise that he did right away. And also, Brock processes it's not even close. Brock processes on the field the actual offense that we want way better than Jimmy ever did. And that's the biggest thing that I saw why, if I was to kind of, in your words, make the same mistake again, fall in love with a quarterback too soon, those are the things that if I was to do it versus Brock, and you got to think about it with Trey, it's been said how good of a processor and fast thinker Trey is, but if I had to say anything that didn't look like a rookie with Brock is how fast he processes that offense. It's special.
Sure, absolutely, and I think what he established is that he's better than Jimmy Garoppolo. But I think what the Niners should have learned from the Jimmy Garoppolo experience is that the Jimmy Garoppolo bar is pretty low, and that Kyle Shanahan, although he couldn't win with C.J. Beathard and Brian Hoyer early on, he can win with a lot of quarterbacks, especially when his team is healthy. And you don't spend for these guys. You don't get tied down to a mediocre quarterback. Keep your options open. And maybe that's what Kyle's trying to do. Maybe that's what Darnold's here. Maybe that's why Trey Lance is still here. I think Kyle might be trying to keep his options open. Don't settle for the first quarterback who makes you feel fuzzy inside. You know what I'm saying?
So let me ask you this, man. But I really like the fact that you brought that up. The Jimmy bar was way too low. So if you think about it, if Brock comes in and has the type of season that he did, right? Would that not be an eye opener where, like, if we're coaches, we're nudging each other like, now wait a minute. If Brock can come in here and do this over Jimmy, what the hell have we been waiting on Trey to do all this time? Right.
True.
And
True.
It could kind of like reset everything where it's like, all right, well, maybe it is us.
If Trey can't even reach the Jimmy level, then what does that say about Trey? And that maybe that explains their evaluation.
Yeah. Because you can go back and say, well, shoot, if we can go find a guy like Brock to give us this, what we've been begging out of Jimmy, and we completely overshot and overreached to go get Trey, who's to say that we can't double down and find something 10 times better trying to go get an under?
But isn't that what they're doing right now? Like, isn't that what Sam Darnold isn't that what Kyle would probably say? Like, look, I like Brock, nothing against Brock, but I also like Sam Darnold, and I'm heavily involved in Brock's success. So watch what I do with Sam.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, real quick. Kyle was tied to Jimmy because he didn't have a winning record without Jimmy. His record was awful without Jimmy. But as soon as he won with Brock, then they could get rid of Jimmy because he could prove that he could win with other quarterbacks. But I feel like the other edge of that is now he's tied to Brock. And he's like, wait. What I'm trying to prove is that I can win with lots of quarterbacks. Me. It's me. I'm trying to prove that it's not Brock, it's not Jimmy, it's me. And
I'm the common denominator.
Exactly. So we'll see if he sticks to that. Joseph says I came in as the 420th viewer on 420. Hey, holler. Nice.
Oh, it's being celebrated today, babe.
Nice. Shetty Murphy says how many more? Put it in the air. Shetty Murphy says how many? Kiss the sky, baby. Shetty Murphy says how many more Kyle Shanahan years, if no Super Bowl? Counting the days. 15. 30.
Yeah, this has got the potential to be on like Marvin Lewis type tenure. Like, he could be here for a very long time because there's always going to be somebody that's going to love the stories. There's going to be somebody that's going to prop him up, and especially if we're lovable losers, if we have famous losses, it's going to be enough to keep Kyle around.
Yeah. Tony says maybe give Trey the same playbook as Brock Purdy and see what happens. Love the show, GC. Shout out to Coach's barber. Dude, my barber ghosted me. I just would always walk in. I went last week and the guy was like, he's gone. No, he's gone. He doesn't work here anymore. I'm like, what? So I got to find him or find a new barber.
I got a secret code though. I cut my own hair. So I have no excuse not to have my geometry tight when I come on here. I cut my own hair. Got me through school, got me through military school. So yeah.